Hello, happy Sunday, Soul Healing Revolution. How are you? How are you? Edmundo and I are back for another episode of Temple Talks on our Divine Union series. And this week, we said we were going to discuss and go deeper into the union and merging of our divinity and our humanness. So here we are.
I like how you got in and do the intros.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, but I forgot. This is the Sunday sermon you always wish you had. You really liked that last week.
It's pretty cool how we can, we have 5 kids and we're doing life and this and that, and we're like, oh yeah, let's go do our life now, and then we just come and sit here, and then it's like, it's just go time, it's like, it's pretty cool to see you. Pretty cool.
Oh, well, and especially because what's going on with my hair. We've been moving through quite a morning. Well, I have, I should say.
Yeah.
I have been going through quite the I guess you could say heart opening or reopening. Yeah. So it's that I don't know, I guess post-eclipse integration, maybe you could call it. So I've been feeling a lot of feels. So my face is a little puffy and swollen today because there's been a lot of tears flying out of my eyeballs. A lot of recognition of patterns and different things, but that will have to be a conversation for a different day. But in case you can see, because I feel really puffy.
They were good tears. They were good tears.
Yeah.
I told Kara, I said, because Kara mentioned how her eyes were puffy. And I said, yeah. I said, I saw you were crying, and I said, hey, maybe you shouldn't cry anymore because your eyes are going to be puffed for the life. But then I was like, man, that might be a little insensitive.
Yeah, I'm really glad you didn't say that. That would have pissed me off really bad. That would have definitely gotten you a fuck you.
Oh, come on now. I know better.
Hello, where's my coffee? Yeah, we had a fun night out with some friends last night. Went to a birthday dinner, and then we hung out with another friend for a chat, and we were out for a while. Actually, we've been having a lot of connection the last few days. We had a play date with our daughter and with one of the women who came to one of our recent temazcals, and I feel like that also really kind of contributed to the conversation that we're going to have today. We were talking a lot with her about her Christian background and where it aligns with our teachings and where there's some question marks and maybe fears and potential fear of rejections. And it really kind of speaks into this merging the divinity and humanness, and where a lot of us were raised, in the church. We personally do not have that background, but yet it also still permeates our subconscious, right? And we all hold this in our psyche at some level. And so one of the things that she shared with us is that she felt so welcomed and so accepted here with us.
Yeah, one of the things that she shared is something that we're very proud of, that is something that we really cultivated and something that we set out to do, is that here in our home, in the work or just here in our home, is that all parts are welcome. This is something that we to our kids, it's something that Kara and I have worked, and this is like, we had a sweat here in the temple, and it's something that we always say, here all parts are welcome. And something that she reflected back to us.
So sorry.
something that she reflected back to us is that she really felt that. You know, we whenever we open ceremony, we always say, you know, this is a place where you can be everything. You know, all of you. You know, all parts of you are welcome here, and that she really felt that. You know, she said like she really felt like that we meant that, and it's true. We really mean it. You know, this is just like with, you know, started with our kids. You know, started with us. You know, that even your ugly is welcome. You know, even your dark. You know, even your shadowy side is welcome, you know, and we're not going to shy away from it, and we're not going to shame you for it, and we're not going to make you wrong for it, right? And so as we said this to this woman, she said that she really felt that, and it's something that she also hears at church, you know, that the pastor says, you know, that all parts are welcome there. But I think that there's also something where maybe it's not 100% true.
Yeah.
You know, can she really be her whole full self in the church and be accepted and be loved, you know, unconditionally? And
with her fellow Christian, you know, members of the church or friends. And for her, she really, her Temescal experience really showed her where she was holding so much judgment for and within herself. That was a lot of the patterns that were reflected to her. And, you know, we all have this, even us, even though our philosophy and motto is all parts are welcome here. We still are human, right? We still, the divine part of us knows this, right? Knows our godliness, knows our worthiness, knows our sacredness. But the human part of us is where we all are challenged in this way. And like, this is the work, right? Like, this is the divine union path.
You know, as you were saying that, and I don't know if it rings true to you, but for me, it's so much easier to stay in that neutral, non-judgmental space within doing the work. Whenever we open sacred space and we're all working with our divinity and we're witnessing people, it's like almost like a non-issue to pass judgment or to, you know, just to show up fully for these people. But in our humanness, in our real life, it's definitely more challenging. Is it the same for you?
Yes, absolutely. Like, it doesn't, like, literally doesn't matter if you were to, like, scream to me that you hated me and you called me all the fucking names in the world. When we're in ceremony, or when I am in my own divinity. But when I come out of that space, like out of ceremony, then I do have to like process the very real parts of me that got activated or got triggered. And I mean, because, well, you've witnessed me go through this. I do go through. So you go through this. We both do. We both have experienced this. It's like the divine part of us will hold you in unconditional motherfucking love. And then the human part of us really has to do a lot of work to get to that place, right? Because it's like we all have our own wounding, and then those words, they land in those wounds, you know, and then we have to be like,
yeah.
Oh, you know, like you have to go through all of your emotions, that like, that fuck you, that you hurt me, that why did you do this to me? Why am I doing this? Why am I even why am I putting myself in this situation? Like, these are also the very real, like, humanness aspects of us and in this work and in the world. And not everybody is doing, ceremonial sacred work, you know. I mean I guess they could be, but like not everyone is walking their soul path, if you will, or like working towards their soul mission. So I guess that can kind of like remove an aspect of the sacredness. You can make it sacred, well, but we don't know, not everyone knows how to do that anymore. And once we step out of that sacred space, then yeah, we do have to really like be in the dichotomy of our humanness. And it's like part of you can understand what was happening and the purpose and why it had to happen and all of that. And there is also the very real part of like your inner child wound or your past life wounds, and these places within you that feel the very real human experience of it.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, this is why we're gonna be talking about today. But I feel like, we can definitely in this moment explore why that is. Why is it that it's so much easier to be, when you're in ceremony, it's so much easier to show up for people and fully, and in our human everyday life, why it's so much challenging, and I think that is the lot of the work that we've been doing to you know, to not separate them both.
Bridge.
Yeah,
to bridge them.
Yeah, to make the mundane sacred. To make our conversation sacred.
Sex sacred.
Yeah, and so that is the union, the divine union between our humanness and the divinity. That I think that has been our work for the last few years of like if we can do that in ceremony, and if we can show up that in ceremony, we can definitely show up like that in our daily lives. And even just like cleaning the house and even doing the dishes, even like, our relationship with money, with our children, with us, that we can start bringing that into just a regular daily life. And it's definitely felt. We've definitely gotten better results because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when you ask the question why, for me, it's it feels very simple. It's like I opened my channel to be a conduit for the divine in a ceremonial space.
And also, like there's 100%, but there's an intention that's set. That we're doing this, and in this container, this is how we're going to show up.
Yes.
And within that container, you have a set of, not rules, but agreements. Like that, we're doing this, and we're going to go deep, and we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to show up, and this is the container, right? And I think, like I said, we can do that for our daily lives also,
Yes. Actually, I think that we do that and have done that in a lot of ways, and you said this already, but I wanted to give some like specifics of how this looks for us. So for example, in the like making the mundane sacred is such a beautiful emergence of divinity and humanness, because we do have to clean our house, right? We have to pick up, and that is not for everyone. That's not the most enjoyable. I know for me, it's something I really struggle with. But what has helped me a lot as I've implemented this over the last year or so is making that sacred, right? So like, for example, how I do this very human task and bring my divinity into it is I turn on like a music playlist. It can be whatever. I mean, sometimes it can be like a fuck you playlist. Sometimes it can be like my priestess playlist. Sometimes it's a dark feminine. Sometimes it's just, whatever. You like to play a lot of like Mexican music, and because that's like brings you back to, your childhood or whatever, right? But whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's just the intention. But as I'm cleaning, like if I'm, I can metaphorically like map that onto like, oh, here I'm like sweeping out, like the cobwebs of my subconscious, or I'm like really deep cleaning, so I'm like doing an inner purification, right? So it's like what I'm doing on the external is I'm also allowing it to be an internal energetic experience. So it's making it sacred, and it's just through that intention, right? Or it can just be like to fill your home with love, right? It could just be like something that simple. Like I always like, if I'm cleaning underneath of the couch in the basement, I'm like, oh, we're doing some really deep like shadow work here, like we're really cleaning out some like old nasty shit, because that shit, the basement with the kids and everything, there's a lot of stuff that gets shoved under there, and the same happens like within us. So that's just like one aspect of it. But I also think like in the bedroom for us is like another place where we have like merged this very human act of sex, and we have made it sacred and brought our divinity into it. And then we end up having this really beautiful and now it's almost like it just happens more organically. It's not even like a big production, but you can like actually make it ceremonial and like candles, and you can, create a whole experience out of it. And I think for us now, majority of the time, it's not always, but it's just kind of innately there because we both like hold this experience between the two of us as a union experience, as a sacred experience, and we both do bring like our higher selves into it. Even if we're, and I'm not saying it's always like lovey-dovey, ooey gooey, love and lighty. Even when we're like bringing our kinks and our darkness into it, it's still held with a sacredness, with a reverence.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest has been of like, bringing our divinity and our humanness into union has been that in the work, as we're doing, working with people, that there's an invitation to bring up that the shadow, the darkness, the ugliness to the surface to be worked on, right? And so we do this intentionally. It's like, hey, why are you here? What is the trauma here? What's holding you back? Why are you shackled to, right? And so you bring it up, through conversation or through just the energetic piece of it. And then you work on it, right? And you learn how to love it, and you understand why you're doing this. And on my daily life, how that has translated is that when shit doesn't go my way, or where I feel like there's a failure, or where I feel like I'm not getting it right, it's just an opportunity for me to work through it, right? And then I can be grateful for that opportunity, right? I don't see it as a bad thing or something that shouldn't be happening or a failure or anything. I see it as an opportunity to work through that, and that's become something that is now very present in every single time that I don't feel like something went the way I wanted it to go, right? Like, okay, so what's the opportunity here? What is the lesson? Like, why is this happening? What story do I still I'm still holding on to? What's the limiting belief here? What is the ask of this experience of people that I'm having? And to have shifted in that way, I don't go down that victimhood, path, of just feeling the victim to the situation, to the experience, or whatever the contact I have with people. And so that came from, me learning how to be more of my divinity in the work, to then bringing that into, our just daily lives.
Yeah, those relationships. Yeah, it does. It also, and maybe you spoke to this already, but I'm just going to say it in my own words. It's like when we're interacting with people, it allows us to hold them in a space more of love. Like witnessing their humanness, because we have acknowledged and like accepted and loved more of our own humanness. And then we can see like where they're at, and, maybe we still go through our human process with it, but we can also like return back to love. And that is the divinity, right? Mm-hmm. Like our capacity and ability to love. And there's actually a piece of that I don't know where I saw this recently, but somewhere I read this, that most people, we don't actually know what love is. And that's true. It's true. We don't actually know what love is. And I think, again, like if we're even going back to the church, where we've had this like stories shared with us that like, even though people were members of these Christian churches that claim to love and accept all, and this is the message that they preach, but when it comes down to it, they have so much dogma. You must do this to be accepted. If you do that, then you're going to go to hell. Well, what does that mean? That means you're being rejected. If if you do this, then you can't be a part of our church anymore because you are bad. And there's a lot of slut shaming that happens in these situations, and there's a lot of religious trauma that comes about as a result of this. And this isn't really something that we have spoken to a lot, but we have had more Christians entering our space lately, and so it feels really pertinent to address this. And this is where merging your divinity and your humanness, what it really offers is it offers you spirituality without a dogma. It does allow you to accept all parts of yourself. It does offer you truly the opportunity for divine union, which is also liberation, which is also pure divine love, not conditional love, right? Which most of us have only ever known from our families, from our caregivers, from our friends, from our peers, from our coworkers, from ourselves. Even our relationship to the divine, we feel that his love is conditional. That is not true love. That is not pure. That's not pure divine love, because pure divine love is unconditional. That is where all parts are welcome. And that's why we must, in order to have this experience, if you choose to walk this path, you must embrace your humanness and your divinity. All of it must be able to be welcome back into wholeness in order for you to experience divine union, in order for you to truly know pure divine love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I 100% agree. There's something you said and I can't remember. It was about I can't remember now. I'll have to come back to it.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for jumping on. If anybody has any questions or comments, please say hi. Let us know you're here. We love knowing it, even if you're catching this on the replay. You're welcome to comment, to offer any insights, share your own experience. Hi, Heather. Thank you for joining. Because we want for this to be an interactive experience for you. We want to hear your stories. We want to hear your perspective. We want to answer your questions.
I remember now what I was going to say.
Okay.
As you were talking about love and, what love is, and, having conditional love, where people or even like the church or whoever.
Conditional love?
Conditional,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. That, they tell you that all parts are welcome, but that's a lot of times that's not true, right? And so what happens is that in order to be in a relationship with these people or to belong part of this, this church or whatever,
mm-hmm.
you have to reject parts of who you are, right? Like you have to put, parts of you in the closet or in the basement to be part of this, right? To be quote unquote accepted into this. And so do you start, denying this parts, rejecting these parts, and you can never be whole in that way. You can never reach, you can never come into that union of your divinity and your humanness through that.
Yeah.
You just can't. You have to learn how to love all parts of you, and like, again, like this is something that we really live by, that all parts are welcome here. And because we understand that in order to be your whole self, in order to be liberated, in order to have that come into that union of the humanness and divinity, like you have to love all parts of you.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I'm like, again, like why? Like, why can you not experience this in these spaces where there is conditional love? And it's because it's not safe to be all of you, right? And so, here we are having this conversation inside of a community called the Soul Healing Revolution. This is truly a revelatory way of being. This is truly a revolutionary. I'm not saying it correctly, and I don't even know if my mouth can form the word, but it's truly a revolutionary path to to walk the path of divine union, to walk the path of liberation, and say, I am going to choose to love all and accept all of me, even if no one else does. Because the reality is that the majority of humanity doesn't and won't and maybe cannot and might not ever be able to fully accept who we are. And that's our job. And it's only our job, right? And so here we are trying to create this space. Not trying, we are creating it. It's happening, we're doing it. Creating a space where you do get to be all of you. And like, we don't expect perfection from the humans in our space. We don't expect perfection from ourselves. And it's not easy. It's not easy. It means having so many uncomfortable conversations. I can't even tell you how many uncomfortable conversations that I have had this week alone. But to preserve and uphold unconditional love, I had to have those conversations. And all of those relationships were preserved in the process because of my willingness to stand in that, stand in my own divine union and to be in right relationship with my love.
Yeah. And you know, as you're talking, I'm like, it's been a long journey. You know, I think we're talking from this space now where, you know, we feel like we've gotten to the other side, or, you know, we've become more aware, you know. Yeah, right, exactly. I say, because it never ends, right? There's never a final destination, right? But we have gotten to a place of, you know, more than ever accepting ourselves and accepting our shadow and our darkness and our light and everything, right? And I feel like this is the reason why we can be of service to others, right? And in ceremony and in coaching and this retreats, right? Because we have achieved a level of acceptance of of ourselves. Mm-hmm. But it's been a long journey, right? And there's just so many layers to what we're speaking right now. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's I guess I didn't want to like oversimplify it, or, you know, just speak from a like very like you know, this is it. You know, this is just as long, you know, as long as you can achieve the human and divinity union, then you're all good, because there's so many layers to that.
Well, is there a layer that you're feeling called to like speak on specifically? I mean, we can definitely go deeper into that.
Well, I think like in the last couple of videos we have shared, you know, about a little bit of our path, you know, starting within ourselves, you know, mm-hmm. that divinity, divine union within ourselves, you know, accepting our masculine and feminine, accepting our light and dark, you know, accepting our humanness and divinity, you know, like, and all that started within ourselves, and how then that started to show up in our relationship, you know, and how, mm-hmm. you know, then you know, we created space for each other, and, you know, the conversation started to, you know, morph and become something else, where, you know, we both had you know, created a space to hear each other, acknowledge each other, and all that, you know. And then that evolved into the work, you know. Then that because we were to create this, like I said, somewhat of a, you know, we reach a level of acceptance and liberation, then we have this yearning, we have this desire to want to help others, you know, go through this process, because we did it alone, you know. We did mm-hmm. it. We didn't do it, but we didn't have a coach. We didn't have mentors. You know, we had each other, which has been a blessing, you know, to be able to mirror and you know, play out our shit with each other. But it was a long fucking journey, you know. Well,
we also had the medicine. We worked with plant medicine, and that was a huge mentor. And we also had the divine guiding us. So, yeah. But yeah, like, sorry, we're getting like all the text messages right now.
So yeah, so that's been the journey, you know, to get to this place where now a lot of our work is spent with that, you know. You know, moving from this is not happening to us, this is happening for us. And that's been a game changer, you know, for it, things that used to take months to get to the other side might take hours and even weeks now because of that.
Days.
Days. Because now we're like, okay, so this is happening for us. So if it's happening for us, it must come from some other place where there's some guidance happening here. Something somewhere, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, is giving us this opportunity right now to expand, to grow, to heal, right? And as we do this work and as we navigate this path, that becomes clearer and clearer and clearer.
Yeah, and something else that's really coming to me, and maybe you want to respond to Makai and to my parents while I'm telling this story. Tell my mom yes for Christmas. My mom is Christmas shopping and she's like, hey, we're going to the Under Armour store. Do you want anything? Yes. grab us, whatever you think.
Life.
Here we are doing our divine work and handling human things at the same time. Right? But this is, that's like a beautiful example of how we can, how we do make space for that in our life. And this is actually what I was going to talk about is, it's like that concept of heaven on earth. And that is when you merge your humanness with your divinity, that is how you create heaven on earth. That's how you don't have to wait until you die to experience bliss and heavenly liberation, right? You can have it right now by accepting the humanity of your experience right now. And that means that we're going to have to feel a fuck ton. I literally was just why? I'm feeling so much today, right? As I shared in the beginning, a lot of emotion has been coming up for me, having a breaking open of my heart, witnessing myself in some patterns, a lot of relational experiences have been the activations for that this week. And it's allowed my heart to just completely break open, and there's been sadness and pain and hurt, but also so much love. And when we put down that armor, when we stop making ourselves wrong, because that wrongness is a protection mechanism, right? That is our armor. The judgments, that's armor. That's, that's us not wanting to be seen and not wanting to be hurt, not wanting to feel the potential pain of an open heart. But that's what also living from your divinity is. It is standing in and leading from and living from and walking from an open heart, a wide open heart, knowing that yes, you are going to get hurt. You are going to feel it all, and embracing that very human aspect of and the duality of our human life and our human existence, and not wanting to deny that, not wanting to numb that, because there is a process and journey of learning to trust yourself, to feel it and hold it, and to know that you're going to be okay. And it's intense, to feel. And a lot of people are like, oh, fuck that. I am not trying to feel all of that. And I hear you on that. I feel a lot, and I pride myself on being able and willing to feel a lot. But the more you learn, that's the greater your capacity is. And then the more you feel, and the more you feel, and you're like, ah! So it can be a lot at times, but at the end of the day, it also opens up my entire channel, my energy field, to access even more of my divinity. More love gets to flow through me, more Shakti, more life force, more really of the, I guess you could say earth, and the cosmic love, the divine mother, the divine father, all of that gets to flow through me more, because my channel is open instead of constricted.
Yeah, and it's so much easier to connect with others in this way also, when you can feel their emotion. There was a time and place, where I was I didn't want to feel, right? I was numb, and I was very shut off. not just for myself and from others, and like you said, from God, from divinity, right? And I just didn't want to feel, it was too much to feel, and there was an overwhelm, and I think we've shared this in some other videos, but as I learned how to feel, it opened a whole other thing, right? Now I find myself like connecting with people in a quicker, more deeper way, it was beautiful, right? And then also now I find myself like, connecting to nature, feeling the power of nature, and how much it offers me, and being in ceremony and feeling so alive, in that space of divinity and emotions and all the above. But it was because I decided to open up and start feeling everything, because also too, yes, sure, you feel the pain and you feel like the discomfort, but you also feel the joy and the bliss and the pleasure, all of that, and now sometimes we joke about like, like what did we do? What did we do? Well, if we knew that this is how it was going to be, we probably said no or whatever.
We would have never said yes.
And I'm like, no, that's not true, because before it was a slow death. It was just walking through this earth, just numb. Just living, subliving. Like it wasn't a life. It was just a slow death. Just survival, just existing, but not fully
living
and having this beautiful human experience, so yeah, at this point I took it. No, I said if I was presented with that, having to make the decision, I would choose the same path, because
because to walk the path of love, which is what divine union is, it is to walk the path of love, to unconditional love. This is what Jesus and Mary Magdalene's work was, right? This is what he died for, and this is what we are reawakening to. This is what we are remembering, and there is like an embrace of that, like you were saying, the aliveness and the vitality of the human experience, the dichotomy of all of it. And as we embrace that instead of reject it, then it's like it has to be both. There is only ever both. And so if you want to just live in the divinity aspect, you also have to accept your humanness. It's kind of like you can only go as high as you go deep, right? So it's the same with this pendulum or this scale. And it's the same with the feminine and the masculine, like you said, the light and the dark, the divine and the humanness. As we're always accepting both, because to deny one or the other is to suffer.
Yeah, to like be disconnected from source.
Yeah, from your truth, from your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think I feel complete.
I do too. I feel like this was a shorter chat today, but I feel like the transmission was potent and there was a depth here. So hopefully that was received by you all, and thank you all for watching. And again, we're offering Divine Union Temple sessions in our underground temple in Pacific, Missouri. People travel from all over to come and work with us inside of this space. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We are booking for these private sessions. They are currently, they include like a pre-consultation call and an intake experience, and cup of cacao when you arrive, and we do a pre-ceremony, and then we move into the actual session. And this is for individuals or for couples. And again, we're working with the light and the dark, the masculine and the feminine, and also your divinity and your humanness. These are all the aspects that are woven into these sessions. We go very, very, very deep. Inner child, past life, generational, karmic, wounding, all of that is addressed in these sessions, whatever your soul specifically needs and requires. And we can help you bring your relationship back into a sacred space, and we'll show you how to do that individually and together. So, and then we also offer a post sessions integration support as well. And those sessions are $555, and if you need to do like a payment plan, we can do that with you as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that this is truly a place where all parts are welcome. Truly is, and that in itself is it's well, first of all, it's felt. I know we say because we have to put language to it, but this is something that is felt. And this is not just for me. This is from like client after client after client saying the same thing. I truly felt like I could be all myself here. I could fall apart if I needed to. I could laugh big. I could cry. I can, I can share my deepest, darkest, thoughts, and emotions. So yeah, if you're ready to feel that, if you're ready to experience that, then yeah, reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Yeah, we would be honored to support you in your journey to return back to love, to unconditional, pure, divine love. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you so much. We'll see you again next week at 11 a.m. Central Time here in the Soul Healing Revolution for another Temple Talk.